Well, hey everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are on this little planet of ours. I'm Legal Vices, and it is I've completely lost track of. It's a Tuesday today. Just coming off my jet lag from. It took me about a week to get over the jet lag, but we're fully aware, we're fully awake, and we're not going to get punch drunk and loopy by the end of this thing, I hope. There's really not much of a prelude we need to do today. Just I like when we got 52 likes to this thing before we even start. For the 63 of you that are here, that means that 11 of you, I get 9 of you. 9 of you haven't done your job. So get down there, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribed button as well. And as we've talked about the past few days, it seems that YouTube's going through one of their subscriber purges and just randomly unsubscribing people. So double check, make sure you're down there. And I'm expecting this to be a pretty popular stream tonight. So I'm going to try to pay as much attention as I can to the chat. But the best way to make sure that I get your comments, that I get your questions, that whatever you need to say gets out there, the super chats are the way to go. Just do your thing. We don't keep harping on that. I don't expect them, but that's your option to make sure whatever you have to say gets addressed. Thanks to the mods. The mods showed up early, as always. Dave set us in gear here. And to all of you folks that are just joining, great to have you here as well. And we'll just bring on our guest of the evening. I feel like the guest when I'm in her presence. We have Andrea Burkhart. Welcome, Andrea. Good morning. It is awfully early where you are.
Good morning. It's not so bad, but pleasure to be here.
And the thing about this time zone, I like about this time zone, is everybody on your side of the planet kind of has the evenings taken care of. And here we've got Australia that's an hour past us, so they're midnight right now. And then you go all the way back to London, which is I guess they're at 3 p.m. now. So I get the whole, basically Legal Mindset. Andrew and I, we have the entire other hemisphere to deal with it.
You have the light side of the world right now, which is a real advantage. That was something I learned during the trial, was that the Pacific time zone was basically the worst place to be. We had to be up at like 5 to start watching things, and everybody else got to sleep in,
Well, I mean, that's how I became acquainted with you, as being on Nick's stream, and I think we were on Legal Bites together, Legal Bites once together, I believe. But yeah, that was me. Was Nick was always like, "Here, come on to my streams." I mean, all right, so I have to work from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., get home, eat dinner, and then stay up with him till 5 o'clock in the morning. And
you did. You were quite a trooper. It was impressive.
But I did get caught napping once, so and I'm surprised it was only once. But we are here because obviously you are the internet superstar these days with regard to the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard situation. And I asked you to come on so we could talk a little bit about this and get some of your favorite insights into what's going on. And if any of my viewers don't know who Andrea Burkhart is, shame on you. If you don't, I don't know how you found me, because I'm the new kid on the block here completely. I'm the newest of the new, so everyone should know everybody else except for me. But if you don't know her, get over to her place immediately and hit that subscribe button for her. And anyone that doesn't know me that's coming here for her, hey, welcome. And if you like what we talk about, give a thought about subscribing to me too. And I guess without further ado, I know we've only got you for a limited time, but let's start out with, well, who are you? Who are you and why are you here?
Well, so yes, I'm a Depp trial junkie. My background is in criminal defense. I've been a criminal defense lawyer at the trial and now primarily at the appellate levels for 15, 16 years, somewhere in there. And so this trial just caught my attention a long time ago, back when they were just gearing up to do the litigation against the Sun in the UK, and some of the evidence started to come out into the public sphere. And that really caught my attention because, of course, we don't see public figure defamation trials survive the pretrial processes in the United States very often. So once I saw what the evidence was going to be, it became very clear that, oh, this other lawsuit, this one in Virginia, it's going to go forward. I mean, unless they settle it, which, seemed increasingly unlikely as you kind of got to know the
Yeah.
personalities involved. There's too many disputed facts. It's not going to be the type of thing that is going to get wrapped up without a trial. So I knew it was coming, and I knew it would be big, and I knew I had to watch it, and just see how it all unfolded. And now here we are.
Well, that was how I became involved in all of this YouTube stuff. I started watching Nick back during Rittenhouse. Of course, I guess with everybody else in the universe. So watching that, and I remember the dog incident in Australia when it was news. I remember her making the allegations, and at that point, I'm thinking, okay, Johnny Depp's a drug addict. He's an alcoholic. He's always got that really shady, I'm Johnny Depp, I'm mysterious, and you can never know me. So I could see him hauling off and smacking a woman around, just in with that prejudice that I had at that point. And so I thought, when I found out it was going to go, I didn't pay any attention whatsoever to the stuff that was going on in England, which I guess is a detriment in retrospect, because I couldn't compare and contrast. But the reason I didn't was for the reason that nobody talked about it in the States was different. It says in some of these documents, we're going to do different country, different laws, different system, different people, different arguments, different allegations. It's just meaningless. But apparently it wasn't. Well, it was meaningless, but it was meaningfully meaningless. I guess is the way to put it.
Good way to put it.
And then I was just kind of watching with morbid fascination as it started. And then Andrew, Legal Mindset, and I got drunk together one night in Seoul. He's like, dude, you need to get on this YouTube thing. You need to start doing this. People would like to hear what you have to say about this. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Fast forward to a couple of weeks later when we were repeating the beverage consuming night, and somehow he eventually talked me into it. And the next day I've got like $5,000 worth of computer equipment being delivered to my house. And here I am. And I got a big jump start from this. I mean, what are we at now? 22,674 subscribers in 6 weeks. That's not bad.
Awesome. Yeah.
and it was purely because of this. And so I basically owe everything to the Johnny Depp trial here.
Well, I can really relate to that story, because I as well, I did not really ever envision myself being on YouTube. I started talking about this trial on Twitter quite a ways back, and through that I met some folks, primarily Colonel Kurtz on YouTube, who invited me onto her channel to just talk about some of the same things that I was talking about on Twitter. So I started doing the commentary on YouTube, mainly on her channel, well over a year ago now.
Oh, wow. But
never really had the desire to do it myself. She has been pushing me for a long time. Some other folks have been kind of pushing me for a long time. It just wasn't something I necessarily had the desire to do. Well, it was after the trial got underway and I started to see just the strategies, the personalities, the things that if you've gone through the trial experience yourself, and you just have a different view on what it is that you see unfolding. And so that's why I describe what I do as legal color commentary, right? I think of myself as like the Roy Jones Jr. of the Johnny Depp trial, because the color commentator is the one who typically, they're a former participant. They're Roy Jones, obviously a heavyweight champion, boxer, should have been a gold medal winner. Nudge.
I remember watching that on television.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. But
anyway, and it was a huge scandal. We'll have to talk about that. Some of the huge scandal it was here.
A whole other time.
But,
well, it was quite a scandal here too. So
I got to Korea during the middle of the 1988 Olympics. In the middle of that's when I got here. It was September 21st of 1988.
Interesting.
And that was like weeks, it was like 7-8 days after I got here. Anyway.
Wow. just landed right in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
Well, so anyway, that was kind of my perspective, was to be the person who had the experience in the courtroom and can just share that insight of what I'm seeing with people. And so it started off with my analysis of Isaac Baruch's testimony, because that was, I mean, by far one of my favorite moments in the trial. And for me as a lawyer watching it, I could just see instantly where things were going wrong, where
Mhm.
bad judgment calls were being made about how to handle this witness, and like just not picking up on signals that, hey, this person is really dangerous. So
Mhm.
that was kind of what finally got me over the hump to decide, yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about this on my own channel, because that's the type of thing that I thought I would, I would be interested in watching that if somebody did it. So let's just go ahead and do it. And then, it's just kind of gone
Well,
from there.
and I think that's one of the interesting things for me is I found, and it was demonstrable because I'd gone in for a general health check for, because in Korea you're required by your insurance company to undergo a physical every year,
Hmm.
and of course it's all paid for by the government, so it doesn't cost anything. So hey, do it.
Yeah.
I'd gone in before, my blood pressure was high and things were wrong, and then about a month and a half ago, I had to go in for another one to get ready to do all my old people cameras everywhere. They're going to stick in me on this Friday. And my blood pressure is much lower. My stress level is much lower because now instead of just looking at the computer thinking, what in the hell is going on here? And just yelling at the wall and freaking the dogs out. There's a give and take. It's a vent to get some of this out. Because like I'm kind of that same color commentator thing.
Mhm.
You have the legal minds like Uncivil Law Kurt, who will sit there and break down the judgments and the legal reasoning and all. I'm the one that likes to sit back and go, why are you asking that question? And with like Isaac, this dude is crying. Why are you being so aggressive? Why are you're just making people hate you when you ask these questions.
Yeah.
That's more, I like more of the commentary side of things than the in-depth legal analysis myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think just from what people in my comments say, they appreciate being able to sort of see it through our eyes, view it through a different lens than they might have.
Sure.
But I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate tonight, and I'm going to ask my first offensive question. Are you a Johnny Depp fangirl?
So, the last Johnny Depp movie that I saw up until maybe a year ago was Donnie Brasco, okay, which I think was 90 something.
Yeah. And a hell of a
Finally, a
good
year
movie.
ago, I got around to watching the first Pirates of the Caribbean. It is
A
still the
year
only one I've
ago.
ever seen. It was,
Wow.
I mean, it was fine. It's not really my style of cinema.
Yeah.
But so no, I mean, I can't really characterize myself as a Johnny Depp fan. I'm obviously familiar with him. I knew who he was. My familiarity with them is largely because I am a longtime casual consumer of, the trash celebrity news, the TMZs, the Daily Mails. Mine was always Pink is the New Blog back in the day. I loved Pink is the New Blog.
Yeah.
So I was aware of these people. I mean, I knew who Amber Heard was before she ever got with Johnny Depp, because, this is
Oh,
my
wow.
outlet. I like watching this, just reading this trash news. It's nice to have something kind of mindless to check out once in a
So
while.
did it start back when you were a young schoolgirl with like 17 magazine and things like that, or
Funny enough, it really didn't. That was probably way too girly for me. But it was more in law school, where you just spend so much time with your nose in these case books and reading all this just intensely intellectual stuff. I needed something really dumb to kind of have an alternative, a little bit of stress release. So yeah, that was like in the 2003, 2004 type of time frame. So yeah, I was kind of like you, where I had watched this relationship and the coverage of it through the celebrity media spin. And we saw Johnny Depp kind of going downhill over the course of this relationship. I remember the Grammys from 2016 was it was like kind of the low point. He looked terrible. He looked pasty. He looked like sweaty. You know, he just looked very, very unhealthy. And so it was so easy, I think, to spin that into this story of, oh, this, you know, middle-aged man going through his, you know, midlife crisis. I mean, he'd left his wife, or I mean, not wife, but, you know, long-term partner, mother of his children, with this, you know, younger woman, and then appears to be spiraling. And so it just fed so easily into that narrative of Johnny Depp being the, you know, kind of self-destructive bad guy.
Yeah.
And so that as well is part of what drew me to the story, was just finally getting to see this other side of it. Like there's a reason why he was in this decline and why things were not going so well for him. That wasn't just, you know, Johnny Depp is a, you know, greasy old dude. I mean, he was going through a really terrible experience with this partner that he had chosen.
Well, that's where the tide turned for me, was as we were approaching the trial and I was watching things. I was thinking, hey, this was all went down at the height of Me Too. And there is not a single other soul on planet Earth that has come forward to say he did anything remotely wrong to them. And with the prejudice that I had, if you wanted to pile on somebody, he would be the one to pile on. And I guess as Ben Chu said in the closing arguments, this is Me Too without the Me Too. And I mean, that was a big tell. And then it really tipped over the day that Amber Heard took the stand. I mean, once the trial starts, I think, okay, I should be saying, okay, whoever is on the stand or whoever's case is being presented, I should be saying, hey, they might be right because they're the ones making their case. But then when she took the stand, and it was 4 or 5 minutes in, when she said, oh, he hit me, and then he hit me again, then he hit me again, because I laughed at his tattoo. And I thought, okay, now she hasn't seen him with his shirt off, and they've been dating for 2 years. That's the first time she saw the tattoo. And then she's on the carpet, and then she did that stupid, and I didn't realize how the carpet got so dirty. And I'm like, bitch, please, that's not what survivors are thinking about when they're knocked to the floor by an abuser. They're not looking at the carpet going, oh, gee, I wish I would have cleaned the carpet. And that's when I said, okay, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
When was the turning point for you?
Well, my turning point was really back in before the UK trial, and really in the UK trial itself, watching that process. It was before, I want to say maybe a few months before, where some of the witness statements started to be public. And so finally getting to see that there's this whole other side of the story that I hadn't realized. You just kind of assume, again, partly from what I'm reading, you know, I'm reading the stories that are planted. I've gone back over the TMZ coverage of this breakup in one of my videos, and you see so many of these same patterns that we're still seeing 6 years later, with mainly Amber Heard claiming she has all of this evidence, right? But then when push comes to shove, this evidence never materializes. So I think most people had really given her the benefit of the doubt. I took her at face value. She says she has this stuff. She's going to be able to show it. We've seen these pictures on People magazine and stuff like that. So there must be a there. But then once the evidence started to come out, and the one that had the biggest impact on me was the witness statement of Tara Roberts, the manager from the Bahamas, because that was the first time that I learned, wow, not only were eyewitnesses to what was going on, right? But they weren't witnessing Johnny abusing Amber, they were witnessing Amber abusing Johnny, running after him, throwing the can of mineral spirits at him, abusing him in front of other people with impunity. That was what really turned my head around about the case and made me realize, like, this is nothing like what it has been presented in the tabloid media.
So you had your awakening moment well before this trial got underway.
Yes. I followed the UK trial as it was happening as well. So I already had a pretty good idea of what the evidence was going to be, how it was going to go down, how the people were going to present. So that was part of the fun part for me, especially with LawTube getting involved and getting into this case, was I had already gone through this process of seeing how it unfolds and seeing kind of the light bulb come on. So I knew that everybody else was going to go through this process as well. And it was just very fun to watch.
Well, and I think I was kind of one of the last people, but I sort of kept my views to myself because, again, being literally the new kid on the block when it was happening, I just don't want to piss anybody off. I just don't want to make anybody mad with my opinions. But I remember like watching Legal Bites and things where you would see every one of her 8 or 9 panels, just the lights would click on, and you would notice how they sort of went from, well, it's a 50-50 thing, we got to see, to, well, maybe okay, and then finally, all right, I can't justify this anymore.
And the thing that I think was from my perspective also just interesting to watch is because the natural reaction from the legally educated people is this is going to be a very difficult trial for Johnny to win. The law is not on his side. It's a very difficult standard for him to meet.
Especially for the public figure. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But knowing what the evidence was going to be that came out, I guess I would say I had a little bit more confidence in his ability to pull it off than most of my colleagues did. So seeing that transition as well, that recognizing, he might be behind legally, but when it comes to the evidence, he's way out ahead. And, of course, as it turns out, the jury agreed with that as well.
I mean, having seen all of the documents and having followed the UK trial, how do I want to word this question? Now trying to figure out how to word it, I forgot what it was. Dang, it was following right along there. Hey, I'm having a senior moment. Yep. Well, that question is just totally gone forever and ever. But it was a good question. It had something to do with watching the light bulbs go on people's head. Okay, that's what it was. All right, good. Having seen all of this before and having followed the UK trial and made up your mind and knowing what was coming, were you still shocked at how badly Amber Heard's case was presented?
No.
Oh, really?
I mean, no, I knew we saw her do these same things in the UK and to an even greater degree. One of the things that we saw Amber Heard learn in Virginia from the fact that she had already gone through this process in the UK is that in the UK, she got caught trying to be overly specific with her accounts of what happened. And that made it very easy for them to impeach her in the moment. The best example of this was allegations that she was dating back to March of 2013. And so you see her witness statements go through a process of evolution where she had to continue to revise things because she would give an account and there would be a photograph of her showing, no, you did not just get hit in the face with a bunch of rings, because here you are photographed with Keith Richards with an impeccable face.
But she iced it.
Yeah. Ice and Amica cream.
You've been punched in the face a few times in your boxing exploits.
Oh,
how much is a little ice pack going to help a broken nose?
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. that's a whole other thing that we could talk about. You talked about her descriptions not really being consistent with how, survivors would respond to this type of thing. Um, I don't have a history with domestic violence. I'm going to defer to survivors to speak about that for themselves. But I have a big history of being hit in the face and being hit in the face hard by men, because there's not a lot of women in boxing, and I'm fairly large. I'm a 5'10" woman. I fought at welterweight. And so there's not a whole lot of women for me to work with. So, it's just part of the deal. You spar with guys. And yeah, some guys are good work. They know how to make you work, without like necessarily trying to kill you, take your head off, put you through the ropes. But other guys don't necessarily have that ability to hold back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've gotten my bell rung pretty hard a few times, and I know what that experience is like. And so that's something that me and some of my girls that I box with, that we talked about with this trial, is just how her relation of the way that she relates being hit and how it affected her and how she responded to it, just does not ring true to us at all, as people who have gone through that experience of being hit, having your bell rung.
And what about her legal team? I mean, my big takeaway is Elaine Brederhoff's firm was probably not the first firm that she contacted.
Oh no, Elaine's firm wasn't even the first one on the case. They were the third. They were the third law firm just on this particular case. She started off with Eric George, we saw him as a witness after she asserted this defensive counsel. It kind of ended up putting him under the tires a little bit, because he is the one who advised her over making this op-ed, and apparently not very well to keep her out of litigation. So he was the first one. He had tried to get the case thrown out of Virginia and moved over to California. That was not successful. After that was not successful, he withdrew, and then Roberta Kaplan and Ben Rottenborn came on board. And they also lasted, pretty sure it counts in months, not in years. They also tried to get the case dismissed, were not successful. And so then shortly after that, right around the time of the UK trial, is when Roberta Kaplan withdrew, and then Elaine made her appearance. Elaine is who gave us the counterclaim. My personal theory, for some of these transitions, my personal theory is I believe that Roberta Kaplan was not going to go forward with this counterclaim. It was during that time frame that there had been some articles out about this, bot sentinel report. Amber has been trying to blame her tanking public perception on a bot campaign for years now. But so this report basically was able to substantiate 13 inauthentic accounts that were tweeting things about Amber Heard. So not exactly overwhelming evidence of some type of coordinated takedown. That really called into question, from my perspective, the good faith factual basis to be able to assert as a counterclaim, that Johnny Depp and Adam Waldman are conspiring with some, unknown Russians to perpetrate this bot campaign. But Elaine was perfectly willing to make that assertion and to put that counterclaim forward. And I think, as we saw as the trial unfolded, just what a massive strategic error that ended up being.
Well, we have the situation here where it's the height of the Me Too thing. This is coming to trial. We have the allegations of the bots. The general impression is that you have to believe Amber Heard, Johnny Depp is this bad guy. And then the trial happens, which leads to the big question. As someone who's done defense work and doing appellate work now, what are your feelings on cameras in the courtroom?
Oh, I am very much in favor of cameras in the courtroom. For me, transparency is absolutely critical, and it's one of the assets of the American system. Is this presumption that you, the public, have the right to access the court file, to sit in the courtroom, to watch these things unfold. I really see the jury as the conscience of the community. And so that is really, when you talk about government of the people, by the people, and for the people, the jury is kind of the culmination of those types of principles. And so being able to see and participate in that and evaluate that is just a very important part of being able to judge whether our system of government is functioning the way that we expect it to and the way that we intend it to. So yes, I am a big
Mm.
believer of cameras in the courtroom. I think there should be more cameras in the courtroom more often. Our justice system should be more transparent so that we have a better view of, yeah, there are some warts on it, quite often. There is a lot of media distortion and just, I
Well,
mean,
would you?
frankly, ignorance a lot of the times in coverage
Mm.
of legal issues. So to be able to cut through all of that and see it directly for ourselves, in my view, is critical.
Would you say criminal only, civil only, or all courts all the time, always broadcast?
I would put some limits on it. I would appreciate that there are certain types of processes that, the interest in protecting the privacy of the participants is more
Oh,
important
sure.
than, having, so like, the child custody is a good example. When you're talking about a kid, um, there's just implications there that, are probably overcome by they
Well, yeah.
probably overcome the interests of being able to inspect that. Same things with like involuntary mental health commitments. No, we shouldn't have those. Like Brittany's guardianship or her conservatorship, for example. Great example of one that, I'm fine with that being behind closed doors. That's really how it should be. Those are just the types of very personal details that our courts do need to handle, but don't necessarily need to be broadcast to the world as a whole. But for the most part, the rest of it, you're taking advantage, especially in a civil suit. You are taking advantage of the systems of government that we, the
Mm.
taxpayer, fund, that we provide. And so, yes, there should be an expectation that you need to be somewhat accountable for how you choose to use the system. And transparency is really necessary for that.
Well, I was just my general view is generally speaking, of course, with the exceptions that you've mentioned and special victims and things like that, that it should be protected. But I think everywhere from traffic court to the Supreme Court of the United States, this is the 21st century. Anyone can stream to YouTube, just like we're doing here.
Hmm.
Traffic courts, they have their YouTube channels they stream on. They just everything. We can do that. And I think unless there's a reason for a specific case not to do that, every court, because as you said, we have a right as American citizens. And I want to do non-American citizens have the right to access American courts? That's an interesting question. But, but just speaking as Americans, we have a right to go and sit in every public trial in the country.
Hmm.
And this is our way of doing it now.
Hmm.
And we're just limited by geography, but now that limitation has been taken away with technology. But how important do you think it was that there were cameras in the courtroom in this particular case?
Oh, can you imagine what we would have heard about this case had that not happened? Had we not been able to go and see for ourselves how this person testified, what their claims were, what their demeanor was on the stand, what they were trying to accomplish, but weren't successful at doing. Um, if this had been presented to us from our mainstream elite sources,
Entertainment Tonight.
yeah, you already know that it would have been narrative and not fact. And so that was a really important check on that process. And I think something that from just a lot of the comments that I've received from folks who have followed all of this through the trial, through the unsealing and stuff, has just been a massive disillusionment with the press, and just the apparent inability or unwillingness to be factual instead of trying to tell us, what we should be thinking about this case. Give us the information and let us decide for ourselves. And that is what, for better or worse, you and I and people like us who just watched the trial, look at the documents, that's what we're offering that currently mainstream journalism is not.
And like I said, I mean, it just would have been an absolute bloodbath in the media if we didn't have the ability to sit and see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that any of the people, obviously, excluding Amber, because I don't think there's anybody on earth that doesn't believe she was not playing for the cameras. But other than her, do you think there were other people, including counsel for both sides, that were playing up for the cameras?
It's a little bit hard to say just because you don't really know their baseline. Obviously they were aware that the cameras were there. I would say, yeah, I think probably Ben Chu was aware of the cameras. Amber's team did call him out for that, I think a couple of times, like, oh, he's saying these things for the cameras, not because they're legally significant or whatever. And so I think that's probably a valid criticism. Now, having said that, we've now seen transcripts a lot of the pretrial proceedings, and Ben does seem to be pretty consistent with how he presents and how he argues. So having had that insight now, I'm not sure that there was a real discrepancy once they got into trial, once the cameras were there. He did come off, to me at least, as pretty consistent, just in his style. I think we did see that a little bit with Ben Rottenborn as well, with particularly the cross-examination of Johnny Depp, and just presenting that in a way that was kind of cutting, kind of smarmy in some ways. Yeah. Just presenting it maybe as more of a takedown, more of a performance, than really a substantive effort to get at factual information. But it's hard to divorce that from the trial process itself anyway. I mean, that's one of the things that when you've gone through trial, you understand there is a performative aspect to it. The jury is having the same types of impressions that a TV audience is having, from the other side of the camera lens. So the one who I think came out most impressive from the trial process was really Judge Azcarate. So to the extent that courtroom cameras get criticized for people playing up to them, a lot of that criticism stems from the OJ trial and Judge Ito, and how
who was playing up for the trial, definitely. Up for the cameras big time.
It really kind of hard to escape that conclusion. There can be a lot of big egos in the law, shocker. and so just a natural tendency, I think, for folks in that situation to kind of want to be the center of attention, want to be the star of the show. And so Judge Azcarate was really distinctively not that. She did not want to be the story of the trial, which is absolutely the right approach for a judge in that situation, not just for public confidence in the process and in what they're watching, but just from frankly a basic appellate standpoint. You need to be disciplined with how you make your rulings, how you reason them. And so the greater the tendency to play that up to the camera, I think the more likelihood that you're going to make some type of critical mistake, you're going to overstep, you're going to articulate some type of reasoning that sounds good for the cameras, but is not well substantiated in the law. So just a much greater opportunity to make those types of reversible mistakes that are going to send this trial back to be done over again. And that is, 100% the last thing that Judge Astarati wants, is to have to do this over again.
And I think she got off to a little bit of a rocky start, but she pulled herself together really, really quick. She was a little bit shaky on the objections in the beginning, but she tightened up real quick. And I mean, as most of us know, she's a former Marine, so she's not going to be taking crap from anybody. It's going to be her courtroom, not anybody else's. So I thought she did a fantastic job with, like you said, with the controlling the cameras, controlling the courtroom, and controlling the people in the courtroom. I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift now to the purpose for being here, the great unsealing. And before we do that, the first kickoff of the super chats for the evening. Thank you so much, Justice for Johnny. Let's hear it for Judge Penny. She was iconic. She absolutely was. As we just said, she did a fantastic job with this. And the best way to get your question out there, to get noticed or whatever, is through the super chats. I've noticed one question that's come up twice from the same person, Corn Pop. When are you going to do the Morgan Tremaine videos? Are you ever going to finish them? I've been waiting.
Yes. So part 5 is coming probably this weekend. And then there will be a final wrap up where I'm going to go through and look at, here's what it would take to charge perjury in Virginia. And so these are the types of considerations that are at play, the ways that Morgan Tremaine's testimony could support it, and some of the roadblocks that they could face should a prosecutor be inclined to go down that road, which frankly at this point does not look very good.
That was going to be my question. Do you think they will?
No, I mean, the bottom line is that prosecutors are political creatures. In most jurisdictions, they're elected. So there's a certain amount of playing to their constituency that happens with their charging decisions. And so unless there is a big appetite in Fairfax County to, bring Amber Heard back for criminal charges, it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. And so, the cost of that, the comparative value relative to, the other types of issues that are going on in their community that they're prosecuting, it just makes it seem pretty unlikely to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that argument started. I mean, the discussion's like, is so and so going to be charged with perjury? I mean, that started about 10 minutes after the trial started.
Well, it started in the UK.
Well, for me, it started about, and that's the end of the ultimate end. The ultimate result at the end of the day is, what are you going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Lucky, thank you so much for your generous super chat there. Thanks, Andrea, for doing this. Thank you, Lucky. And Lucky, I noticed that a few hours ago you gave me a super like on one of the videos we did. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to get that out to you. I did see that a couple of hours ago. But thank you, Andrea, for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So the everything has been sealed. We're not going to know any juror names for, what was it, 1 year? We're not going to know anything for 1 year. And then suddenly, out of the blue, it's announced that all of the documents are being unsealed. How big of a surprise was that to you? A, that it happened, and B, that it happened so quickly.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly surprising. And the reason why I say that is because we were able to tell in the couple weeks leading into the trial, maybe a month or so ahead of time, that things were being filed, things were happening that were not being shown to the public. The Fairfax County website set up a specific link to be able to follow the filings in this case, which was wonderful for purposes of public access. I wish more courts would do something like that. So they were really fantastic in terms of the transparency. But we knew that according to the scheduling order, for example, that there were going to be motions in limine filed, that there were going to be other types of things filed. We could see hints in some of the filings that we did see referring to other filings that we hadn't seen. And so we had a pretty good idea that there were things happening behind closed doors, so to speak. And so, yeah, as it turns out, the reasoning for that was simply that this close to the trial, you have a good risk of basically tainting the jury pool, the folks in Virginia who have the ability to walk into the courtroom, look at the file, look at stuff online, and potentially get exposed to, for example, with the motions in limine, information that they're ultimately not going to be allowed to consider as part of the deliberations. So that just poses a risk that you're not going to be able to get a jury that is clean, that's not exposed to these outside influences and information that they're not supposed to consider. So that being the justification for it, that justification is necessarily limited. Typically, because of how, I mean, we have, like I said, we have constitutional protection for public courts, public access to court files in the United States. And so that generally requires that if you are going to take some steps to seal it, to keep things not public, there has to be a compelling interest that justifies that. And then it has to be narrowly tailored to serving that particular interest. And so that's why you see with things like, for example, child custody or, juvenile court proceedings sometimes are sealed. It's because there is a compelling interest in maintaining the privacy of children, giving them the full opportunity of the rehabilitation process that those proceedings are supposed to enable. And so that can justify, having a permanent, closure, because, if you're 60 years old and then suddenly your juvenile record, from way back when is popping up and causing you problems, that's just as harmful then as it would be at an earlier time. But when your interest is really protecting your jury pool, then once the trial is over, that interest is no longer really justified. You've gotten your trial and everything is out there. So there's no longer a risk of distorting the process, of undermining a party's essentially due process considerations. So from that standpoint, no, I was not that surprised to see it being unsealed. There had been within like weeks before Judge Azcarate made that ruling, there had been a decision that came down from the Virginia Supreme Court dealing specifically with unsealing public records and what the standards were, how they were to be applied and that type of thing. So we already knew from just looking, familiarizing ourselves with Virginia law and stuff, that there aren't a whole lot of presumptively confidential documents or information. And so a lot of this stuff under that decision describing these legal standards, it was going to come out.
Well, what about the timing of it? I was surprised by the timing. I guess I was figuring that they would, if it was appealed, they would probably remain sealed until after the appeals had been completed. Were you surprised that they were released so quickly?
No, I really was not. And part of that is just because, one, I mean, there's a presumption that the judgment is final. The fact that you appeal it really doesn't undermine that. Some of that is I guess just legal principles, but some of it is also, frankly, practical. Most appeals don't win. It's
absolutely correct.
Kind of hard to win an appeal.
And I think this is going to be one of them if it continues.
Well, we'll see. But
we do have a question here from Roberta Alton. Thank you so much, Roberta. It's nice to get the super chat here. Andrea, in your opinion, and while you answer this, I'm going to be taking a sip of my adult beverage here in my official Johnny Depp Mega Pint Legal Vices Pimp Cup. Thank you for Etsy for that. So why does mainstream media keep saying that the unsealed documents are worse for Johnny? I don't think so.
There are a few reasons for this. That is the narrative that they are promoting. And one of the things that we are seeing is a little bit of how the sausage gets made in the media. They aren't looking at these documents themselves, let alone looking at these documents with an educated eye to evaluating what do they actually mean, what is the real significance of any of them. And so what they're doing is they are talking about themselves talking about them, and you can trace it all back to basically like a couple of Twitter threads that got picked up and blown up by places like the Daily Beast and Rolling Stone, and essentially repeating the same types of kind of mischaracterizations, misconstructions of what these documents are actually showing.
I think that's
So
the biggest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that's just really the story that from my standpoint has really come out of this unsealing. Has much less to do with the documents themselves, because frankly, from a substantive standpoint, it's far more interesting what is not in them than what is.
Like the notes.
The therapist's notes, after we got this this pity tour by Amber and Elaine in the days following the judgment, these complaints of all this stuff that they weren't allowed to present, you would expect some of that to be substantiated in these filings that we just got access to, and what you see is that they really are not. So yeah, I mean, there is a narrative to push here. There is PR to be done, that just at this point appears to be far more significant to a lot of these outlets than just the good old 5 W's of what is in these documents and what they mean.
I will say that playing Amber Heard devil's advocate, her changing her PR firm was apparently the smartest thing she has ever done in her entire life. I was just thinking that is the stupidest thing you could do, is to change your PR firm in the middle of a trial. How bad does that look? But you got to admit that the narrative started to change that day. So they're earning their money, whatever they're getting paid for doing this. And I mean, the thing I guess that frustrates me about the people that are looking at, not that we lawyers are on some sort of high pedestal, but we know how to read these documents. But you get these people that read things and somehow they get exactly the opposite of what it means out of the document.
Yeah, well, and there's just common threads that you see, and one of the big ones that has come out of this one is selectively picking out arguments of counsel and presenting them as though they are established fact. And the best example of this was these reports that alleging that Johnny Depp presented altered evidence, his metadata didn't support his evidence and things like that. Well, that was certainly an argument that Amber's team made, but you don't see them reporting on the counter arguments that were made by Johnny Depp and were evidently accepted by Judge Azcarate, based on the fact that we saw these photographs and things like that in trial. And they had every opportunity, and in fact did in some occasions, attempt to argue that these photographs had been manipulated. So they got to make their case. They presented it to the jury. The jury, to the extent that they needed to reject that to find overwhelmingly in Johnny Depp's favor, they rejected those arguments. So it's this not just the relitigation of things that those of us who actually watched the trial already saw dealt with, but it's that effort to recast things that really were not substantiated, that are just argument by lawyers, as though there's some type of evidence.
Why are we, and by we I mean lawyers, you, me, the people on Twitter, everybody in society, why are we as a human people why do we give a shit about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp?
Well, this case has really touched on a lot of cultural issues, and I think that's why it continues to remain such a hot point for discussion. This sacred cow of women don't lie about sexual and domestic abuse. Um, this case is really, really undermining, that
Mhm.
argument. And there's a lot of political power, there's a lot of financial incentive, there's just a lot of motivations for people to continue to push that particular bit of ideology. So this case has really shattered that in a lot of ways. Um, that's going to make it high profile. That's going to make it controversial. It's going to make it a lightning rod for these types of conversations. The cameras in the courtroom, another issue that back in the day, the press was the biggest advocate for cameras in the courtroom.
Mhm.
Back when they were concerned about the 5 Ws, the best way to do that is to just be able to see for yourself what the facts are. And now we have seen this shift where mainstream outlets are now advocating against cameras in the courtroom. And so that's part of just a bigger concern that has started to bubble up in the public awareness about how our media is presenting stories to us.
Well, that's something I just talk about a lot with friends in general, as well as media friends that I have. Is when I was a kid, news was Edward R. Murrow. I mean, he was old and ancient, retired, but I mean that's Walter Cronkite,
Mhm.
Sam Donaldson. They reported the news. They did the investigative journalism. And then at some point, probably right around the O.J. Simpson trial, it started to be the news reporters were the news makers.
Mhm.
And then they still had I believe I believe the news has always been biased, the ownership and whatnot, but you still had integrity. And then
Mhm.
at some point, the owner said, "Well, I own this place, and this is my agenda," and report on it. Not only did the reporters become the news makers, they became the biased newsmakers. And
Mhm.
that's why I think now, as you just talked about, if they're in the courtroom, they can't spin it. They can't create their own narrative because the facts are right there in their face.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the bias is part of it, but another part too is just something that has been kind of systemically in the ether for a while now, particularly with the rise of the internet and with aggregate, media and that type of thing. The fact that just plain information doesn't drive engagement. Outrage drives engagement.
Mhm.
Controversy drives engagement. And so it's part of, frankly, what I see as really the death throes of the traditional media trying to hang on to, what little market share
Mhm.
that they still hold over the flow of
Yeah.
information. Because they have to be able to capture that engagement. And so the incentives now, um, are different than they were back in the days of Walter Cronkite,
Yeah.
Edward R. Murrow.
Got a couple quick super chats to get out of the way here. Flux, hey, thank you so much for the super chat. Good to see you again. After the Rittenhouse case and this case, it's made me sad about law. I love case law. Grew up with Perry Mason and Judge Judy. Right, Judge Judy. We'll get to her in just a second. And now the degradation of our court system is sad. It's all a shoe. Here's me and my little soapbox. I think these two things are linked. Judge Judy and we'll say People's Court and Joe Brown, all these other courtroom cases, I think they have led to the degradation of the in-room court demeanor. I mean,
Mhm.
now watching like Law Talk with Mike and these, the sovereign citizens in the courtroom and when they're just they're disrespecting the court, they're disrespecting the judge, they're shouting. That comes straight from this reality TV court thing. I think we've lost the courtroom decorum, and I think it's just a trickle down from there to. people losing their faith in the system.
I think that's part of it, and I think there's just also it's part of a greater pattern that we're seeing of just loss of trust in some of our fundamental institutions. Lot of theories about why and how that has happened, but I think just from a kind of purely anthropological type of standpoint, I don't think there's really any question that compared to 40, 50 years ago, we don't trust government, we don't trust courts, we don't trust the media, we don't trust education the way that we used to. And, that's an unfortunate place to be.
Yeah. Freddie Stardust here. Thank you so much for the super chat. Theory from Laura B is that when Amber Heard's camp saw the tweet about ordering the docs, Elaine gave them to AHPR guy Shane, so he did his spin. Thank you both. Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there's no reason why that would not have happened. It makes sense. And with,
if you're not getting out ahead of stuff, you're not doing good PR. So,
which is, something classic you saw with Johnny Depp's lawyers doing during the trial. They put him on the stand and they made him testify as to what a piece of shit he was. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and that's very, very standard courtroom tactics. If somebody's going to say something bad about you, you say it about yourself first.
Yeah.
And that takes away the power. Yeah.
It takes the sting out of it. It's something we do in criminal court all the time because we don't, I'm a public defender. I don't get to choose my clients. They get assigned to me. And so often, we're dealing with people that have long criminal records, unpleasant things that happened maybe in the course of their arrest or the investigation. And it doesn't make you guilty of a crime of the specific thing that you're accused of, that you may have, a past as a scumbag. But there's just no question that will have power if the prosecutor is the first one who's able to mention to the jury, oh, you have this history of these other types of crimes. So it's just part of the process of humanizing your client and, letting the jury see we are trying to be authentic here. We're trying to be direct and acknowledge these issues. Yes, we know people will be concerned about them, so that's why we bring it up.
And it sounds different. I mean, when you have the prosecutor saying, "Okay, well, you've done this, and you've done this, and you have this problem and this issue, and so now you probably did this too, didn't you?" Mm-hmm. That sounds much different than, well, I did this. Yes, I did that. I admit to doing this, but I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. It hits different. It strikes differently. And in Utah, we can, as a third-year law students, we can do a third-year practice either at the Civil Indigent Society or at the Public Defender's Office. I did mine at the Public Defender's Office, and I'll never forget the first day. It was like, hey, Jeff, you're here. You've been assigned to me. We got a court case. Let's get here. So it was just like, oh, sweet. So we got in there, sat down, and the first words when it came time for the opening arguments from the defense, of course, he's got his stack of about 30 cases we have to do that day. First client, first time he gets to open his mouth, he says, "My client is an idiot." And I was like, what? We can say that? And and that was, he was like, "My client's an idiot. He's not the smartest." And I mean, he did do some dumb things. Like, yeah, but he has limits on what he's going to do. And I thought, okay, that instantly humanized him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can feel that story.
No, this was, I mean, it was awesome. It was the first case I'd ever sat in on, and it involved this line of questioning by the police who pulled him over for, I believe it was tail light or expired registration or something. "Is there anything in the car we should know about?" "Nothing, just the marijuana."
Yeah.
That doesn't help your case, pal.
No, it really doesn't.
That's what led up to "my client's an idiot." He doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. But okay, we're moving right along with that. We've got the documents. They've been released.
Mhm.
What motivated you, Andrea Burkhart, to be the one out of the entire internet that stepped forward and said, "I want these documents"?
Well, somebody needed to, and often I think what you find is just that a lot of people can think something is a good idea, or would like it if it happened, but just taking the incentive to do it is kind of a different step. So I was willing to do it. I had the ability to do it, and I thought it was important to do so. So I
And
did.
you did it very quickly, though. I mean, you didn't even wait to see if anyone else was doing it. You took the initiative in this
Well,
completely.
yeah, I did have some conversations with some folks, behind the scenes to talk about the fact that I was interested in doing this, and let's not, maybe duplicate efforts, because my whole goal, like I've said, is for this to be transparent. Um, and that's one of the things that I think it's the trade-off with that process, is that this isn't PR. I'm not
Mhm.
running PR for anybody. I'm not going through these documents to take out the things that may look bad for somebody, or that favors one side over the other. That's not the goal here. It's to put it all out there so that we can see this is kind of the backroom stuff that happens with a trial. These are the decisions that were made, that have been subject to criticism, and so this is our opportunity to be able to inspect that and see, is that consistent with the law? Is that consistent with what we think the law should be? Does anything here undermine the fairness of the verdict that we got from the jury based on the 6 weeks of evidence that was presented? So that, to me, was just a continuation of how this process has really been conducted so far. Like I said, the Fairfax court, really up until this point, has been phenomenal with their public access and making the documents free, available to anybody with just a click. But they understandably, reach a point where
Mhm.
they're kind of done with the case, and so they were not going to be uploading these things to their public website.
Yeah.
So I just decided to do that favor for them.
Would you have paid out of pocket if the crowdfunding hadn't have come through?
I did pay out of pocket, and so yes, I was going to do this anyway. The
Oh,
crowdfunding,
okay.
yes,
So
the
you did the crowdfunding to recoup what you'd paid out.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the way that it worked was at
Okay.
Fairfax County, they were requiring a cashier's check to be able to get these documents. You couldn't just go and like give them your credit card and order it and stuff. So there was a whole process we had to go through. So yes, I had to order the cashier's check from my bank. My bank happens to be in Texas. I'm with USAA, so then I had to wait for them to, ship it up to me. And then I have to ship it over to Fairfax County. It actually would have
Remember
happened
when those and
faster.
money orders were easy to
Oh,
get?
yeah, yeah. So, just this whole thing we had to go through. So, yes, I had already put that in motion,
Mm.
by the time that I started the crowdfunding, and that too was largely, just because I had kind of made my intentions known about, what I plan to do to acquire these documents, and just had received a lot of comments and feedback from folks who wanted to contribute. They saw this as an important undertaking, and just, I think, wanted to be part of it, wanted to help support it. So yeah, it was kind of an invitation to people to do that. The support, of course, was
Oh.
overwhelming. We overshot the target so far that there was kind of more money coming in than we needed for this project, and so we were able to make some fairly substantial donations to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and Art of Elysium, who, if you did not know, you can find out from the unsealed files that,
Hmm.
Art of Elysium is the organization that Jennifer Howell, is the executive director and founder of. She, of course, came forward after the UK trial to testify about inconsistent statements that Whitney
Mhm.
Enriquez had made to her about, various various things that were testified to in the UK. And she suffered a pretty hard price for that. What the unsealed documents show us is that Amber Heard then targeted her organization, subpoenaed their entire servers, all of their text messages between the staff. And so for them to be able to deal with, this warfare litigation, they had to hire their own lawyers. It cost them at that time about $60,000 to deal with all this. So, for a small organization, that's a huge blow. So being able to even just a small bit of recompense for what they had to go through, for what they were willing to do to step forward and share what they know, I thought was really important for us to do.
Now it's even more impressive. They're saying, okay, let's do the crowdfunding. If we hit the was it $3,300 for this? If we hit that, then we'll go get the documents. But you'd already said that you'd already done that out of pocket. I was not aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, now you're even more impressive than I thought you were. An hour and 10 minutes. Andrea Roberta Alton has another super chat here. Andrea, a lot of media outlets are writing, talking about you. How does it feel? Oh, you stole one of my questions.
Well, it's a little bit surreal. No question about it. I saw just the other day, Black Belt Barrister, who's a barrister from the UK. He did a video about an article that he found in Chinese news that is talking about me as a Johnny Depp fan. So the fact that this has, circled the globe, is definitely a little bit surreal. But again, I think that it just kind of goes to show, it says a lot about the media environment that we live in, that the story is apparently about me and not about the freaking documents. Go read the documents. They're right there. That is the story. But instead, the coverage is just about the coverers. It's kind of this massive circle jerk, where somebody reports something and then everybody reports about who's reporting and what they're reporting, and nobody's actually getting to the bottom line of what the actual story is. Here are the documents. That's the story. You should be covering that. Why the hell are you talking about me, some lawyer, from from nowhere, Eastern Washington?
I can't remember what movie it was. It was one of that's the beauty of international flights between Korea and the States. So when I went on my vacation 2 weeks ago, you get to watch like 16 movies during the course of the plane ride. And one of them, someone was saying that we read the newspapers so that we know what to say and pretend we said it ourselves.
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie that was from, but it struck me there.
Mm-hmm.
But so when people do this, when people read these documents, when they quote them on YouTube, or when the law tubers do it, or when the Twitter people do it, do you expect people to credit you or mention you at least when they use the documents from your site that you're paying for the storage for these things? You did this.
It's not necessary. They're not my documents. These are the court documents. But for the fact that, Fairfax County is kind of done with their role in this, these documents would be on their website and everybody would be able to get them for themselves. Still to this day, anybody can go buy them from Fairfax County themselves. So no, I don't have any sort of sense of ownership or anything like that over the documents. It is not necessary to credit me. I am not the story. The documents are the story.
Well, we just hit exactly 1,000 viewers, concurrent viewers here. So those of you that haven't been here, hit that like button. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do that. And if you haven't hit Andrea Burkhart's subscribe button, please jump on over there to her. The reason that you're able to hear about these unsealed documents, the reason you're able to read them is because of her. She give her the subscriptions, give her the attention, watch her site. She does some amazing videos. She's broken down a lot of the witness statements here, and watch her Isaac Baruch boxing match video series. It's fantastic. she's the reason that we're here. So please give her the love and get over there and hit that like and subscribe. And we've got 536 likes and 1,000 people here. So half of you get over there and just hit the subscribe button so YouTube likes me. Now that we've moved out of that grift stage, the next question I had for you is sort of related to that. You don't expect the acknowledgement. I'm sure it feels good when you get it, but what's the response been from other law tubers and other Depp supporters for you doing this? I'm sure you've got a lot of private stuff.
It's been overwhelmingly positive. And I'm very grateful for the community of legal professionals that we have on social media these days. No, I don't need credit. I don't even particularly want credit. But folks have nevertheless been very generous in giving it. And I think also just sharing my perspective on the importance of transparency, on why this matters for this information to be public. It's not about supporting one side or supporting another side. It's about being able to see our legal system in operation. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, okay? I'm an advocate for reform in a lot of ways, you know. We do not have a perfect system. And so this particular trial, because it has been such a touchstone, something that so many people have been interested in and followed, it's really a great opportunity for education about how all of these things work, why these decisions are made, what sorts of machinations go on behind the scenes. What do you get for an $8 million legal defense? What does that actually look like and consist of? So this is really an opportunity to have some insight into that and to be able to evaluate and critique our system. It's extremely important.
Well, what about the backlash? You've had the good, you also got the bad. What's the backlash like, and how has it affected you?
I mean, I can't say honestly that I have really felt like I've experienced a lot of backlash. I would say that most of the backlash that I have experienced has just been a factor of the polarization of this case. The fact that, kind of like so many other things in society, it's really become a team sport. You know, you kind of have to be in one trench or you have to be in the other trench. If you're in no man's land, you're just going to get hit with the artillery from both sides.
Well, it's like what we were talking about before we came on here was I tried to be fair and balanced down the middle, and I didn't want to talk about this anymore. But then because it's so polarized, when the release happened, when you got these documents out, I'm like, oh God, now I got to talk about this again. And you have to go back in the trenches and do it again. Otherwise, you can't be a fence sitter on this if you have any mild interest at all. But have you been getting the stereotypical threats and things like that and
no,
bad
you know,
things,
I really don't get that. And maybe I don't know why that is. You know, I don't think I occupy any particularly hallowed position or anything like that. But by and large, I don't tend to get a lot of trolling. I don't get the death threats. Now, granted, my DMs on Twitter are not open. Unless I follow you, you are not DMing me. And of course, there's a big difference between what people will say in public, you know, on my feed, as opposed to what they would say if they had that private access. So I think in that respect, I probably have been kind of fortunate.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to hear. Well, you also said before we came on that you've read everything twice.
Yes.
That's 13,000 pages.
Yep.
I mean, that's like reading it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slog. It's a lot of stuff. But it was important to me to not just take the superficial approach of, you know, let's run through this and pick out a couple of things and highlight them. and make that the entire focus of what this unsealing was about. My channel has, I've always kind of thought of it and tried to present it as a little bit more of a deep dive channel. My goal here is to find the deeper implications of what came out of this process. And so you're not going to get that with a casual, read through looking for what points can be scored for this side or that side. So I do think that there are some kind of deeper messages that came out of this. Like I said earlier a little bit, for me, the biggest story of the unsealing is really what is not there. It's kind of, to some extent, shocking given the complaints that were raised so publicly in the days following the judgment about how unfair it was and the mountains of evidence that were excluded and so on and so forth.
Well, I guess the 800-pound gorilla is the notes. I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to get these notes in. Find me anywhere in all of these documents where they even tried to get them in.
There does not appear to have been a proffer of the notes. And so this,
all.
again, this is just part of a pattern that has been going on for a long time. We saw the same thing in the UK trial. Amber Heard always has people that she will point to as substantiating her version of events, but never, comes to put up or shut up time. They don't materialize. And often, like with the case with Keenan Wyatt, for example, who was on the Boston plane incident, Amber Heard is all over, these audio recordings, just insisting, her version of the Boston plane incident, everybody will back that up. Well, the only objective witness to that incident who testified at the trial quite clearly did not back her up. So in the UK, she's often hidden behind medical professionals. We saw that in her interrogatory responses, she's claiming that Dr. Kipper, Dr. Lloyd, Nurse Birham, all these other medical practitioners are going to substantiate her having suffered physical injury. And then what we see at trial, of course, is the opposite, that the only note of a medical exam that she got in that the December 17, 2015 note from Nurse Monroe Tinker at Dr. Kipper's office finds that she is completely uninjured. And so just this is kind of a common pattern for her. In the UK, her shield was Dr. Cowan. She was basically taking the same kind of approach that she took here, where she claims, all of this contemporaneous evidence, Dr. Cowan had it. But yet once again, she didn't call him. His testimony is there. There does not appear to have been substantial litigation over, whether he was going to be excluded for any reason. So just not a whole lot of support for these complaints that she continues to make, to suggest that somehow she's being prevented from making her case. When we're able to inspect it just frankly looks like it's put up or shut up time, and you decided to shut up.
Well, and I mean, when Elaine did her one post verdict interview, and I'm sure her colleagues were saying, do you really want to lose your license? Do you really want to get suspended? Shut up. And she disappeared. And then we had the two Amber her interviews. But that would have been the point, to come up with all these. She has all these things to go, here's this picture. This didn't get in. This picture didn't get in. This picture. There wasn't a single thing. It was just this mysterious notes.
Yeah.
But from all of this, from all of these 600 some odd documents, what was the most surprising thing that you found in this? If there was anything that was particularly surprising to you, what was the most surprising thing about the release?
I have to say, I can't really say there was anything super surprising. In so many ways, a lot of it was just kind of a nothing burger, compared to what we would expect if these types of complaints were true, versus what we got. That was the surprise, the fact that more of this was not there.
That was exactly my biggest surprise from what I haven't read all of it yet, but from the huge chunk I have read, that was my biggest surprise, was that there's nothing there.
Mhm.
Everybody is focusing. I mean, all the law tubers are focusing clearly on Amber Heard's motion in limine because everybody wants to know, what does she want to keep out? And
Mhm.
what I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 Amber Heard Johnny Depp streams is looking at Johnny Depp's motion in limine, which
Mhm.
I thought would be a little more different and a little more interesting.
Mhm.
And his is so mundane.
Mhm.
He's like, yeah, let's keep out information about my drug use because everybody knows about it. Let's keep out information from this guy because he has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
He has dementia. Let's. It was just everything was keeping. I was like, it's irrelevant. That's why we need to keep it out.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
no big. I have this big secret that I'm hoping doesn't get seen through the light of, doesn't see the light of day through some legal technicality. It's all just
Sure.
like,
And most of the stuff that in those motions in limine that he was trying to keep out, the stuff that was actually damaging, um, by and large, he lost those.
yeah,
He didn't win those. That information did come out. The text with Paul Bettany, um, the references to Marilyn Manson. I mean, he didn't lose. He didn't win the overwhelming
yeah.
majority of those challenges. Um,
Barkin's testimony, Spiegel's
Barton's
testimony,
testimony.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that was all. I mean, back to the trial real quick. And that was the one thing. Their star witness was supposed to be Ellen Barkin. She
Mhm.
was supposed to be the star witness. The best she could do is he got pissed at a group of people and sort of tossed a bottle in the general direction of someone and left the room.
Mhm.
The end. That's the best you can do. Well, if you don't have that big favorite thing, what's some of your highlights? Some of the highlights that you saw in there.
Well, for me, the fun part is really seeing the lawyers' machinations. Again, how the sausage is made, from the legal standpoint. So a lot more insight into some of the positioning and strategizing and stuff like that we didn't get to see before. Big example for that I think is, for me, was a little bit of a jaw dropper, was Elaine's motion in limine on the collateral source exclusion. It's basically proof that the insurance company is paying towards the legal fees. So this, from a legal
Mhm.
standpoint, it's a perfectly valid motion. You don't typically get to introduce that information because there is a sense that it can distort the decision making process. That the jury is either going to think, well, if insurance is paying, then nobody's really injured, so we're not going to award anything. Or on the other hand,
Mhm.
if insurance is paying, then let them suffer, and we'll award a massive amount of damages, because they have the means to be able to pick that up anyway. So the fact that that was not going to be admissible is not really controversial, but having pitched it as she did, and then having seen how they kind of used that as a way to skirt, um, to be able to present what appears to be a pretty misleading, if not overtly dishonest, version of events, that Amber Heard personally paid for
She
all of
can't
these,
afford to pay her pledge because she has to pay me $6 million.
because she's paid $6 million in legal fees,
And
which
if
we
that's a
know now.
$6 million defense, bitch, you need to get your money back.
Yeah. And so we know now from the litigation that's going on in California between the two insurers, the New York
Mhm.
Marine and the Travelers, that they have stated unequivocally that the Travelers is who is paid for Amber Heard's legal defense. And then there's nothing in this unsealing to suggest that Amber Heard has paid above and beyond what
Hmm.
Travelers has paid. Elaine references, well, there's a period of time pre-tender, before the insurance company took it over, where she would have been responsible for those costs. That period can be measured in months. That again is back when Eric George was involved with the case. So pretty difficult to imagine, a $6 million legal bill being 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 incurred over that period of time.
Well, there was and again, these are things that by Elaine trying to keep them out, they ended up getting out of the bag. The same thing with the
Mhm.
stripper pole thing, with the stripper
Mhm.
thing. It's like
Mhm.
we want to make sure he doesn't say anything about her being a stripper. And the reply was, well, we weren't going to mention that.
You're gonna
So
do it anyway. And the thing that really stands out to me about that one is, I have given Elaine no plaudits for her quality of representation. I have just in many cases found her to be shockingly inept. But this was just another example that makes you wonder, does she hate Amber behind the scenes? Because it's
she has
so
to.
unnecessary to make this concession in the context of this argument. She is just basically saying this wouldn't be relevant to bring up at trial. And that's a perfectly legitimate
Yeah.
argument. Now, granted, I think they could argue reasons why it's relevant. If Amber Heard is accusing Johnny Depp of jealousy as part of his abusive pattern and so forth, Johnny Depp should maybe be able to explain why he's maybe not
Yeah.
misunderstanding the situation. But by and large, you would be able to make that argument by saying, even if this were true,
Yeah.
there's no reason to justify bringing it in at court. So there was no need to say
Yeah.
definitively Amber Heard had a brief stint as a stripper in Los Angeles. It just gives you that enough information, enough of a glimpse of possibly what's going on behind the scenes with
Yeah.
them to just raise some questions.
Well, and Tanya Ribikoff, thank you so much for your super chat here. Elaine's questionable dealings surrounded the SA protective order, while not entirely surprising, were pretty crazy.
Hmm.
Great breakdown of that info on your recent video, Andrea.
Thank you.
I
Thank
would
you.
concur.
Yeah, so if anybody is not familiar with that, one of the criticisms of the cameras in the courtroom and the publicity surrounding this trial is, Amber Heard having to testify publicly about these accusations of sexual assault that she was making. And again, I don't personally consider that inappropriate at all if you're going to take advantage of the court process. Amber Heard demanded a jury trial here. So then part of that means, you're going to do it in the public eye. That's just part of our tradition here. But that was something that was picked up on, from Elaine, having argued in opposition to having the cameras in the courtroom that Amber Heard shouldn't have to testify to these details on camera, that the fact of the sexual abuse allegations, she wants that
Mm-hmm.
televised, right? But not the actual part where you can see Amber Heard recounting these events in a way that, I think by and large, most people saw that as pretty lacking in credibility.
Yeah, there was not much integrity going on there.
Yeah, so this attempt to selectively publicize what is favorable to Amber and hide what is not, it is not something that's really new. I mean, if we've been following this case for a
Yeah.
while, but one of the things that we did see was that Ben Chu had actually moved for sanctions against Elaine because during that pretrial hearing on whether or not cameras were going to be allowed in the courtroom, Elaine apparently violated the protective order that they had in place to, shield these types of disclosures. Johnny wasn't allowed to talk about them before
Mm-hmm.
then. there's a process laid out in this order specifically to be able to bring them up in a hearing. And according to Ben, Elaine did not follow that. So
multiple times.
So it's just, yeah. So it's just another example of kind of the double standards that Amber Heard's team seems perfectly willing to engage in. That they, Elaine likes this criticism of using things as both a sword and a shield. She accuses Johnny Depp of using attorney-client privilege as both a sword and a shield. And what you see with her is the same thing with this protective order. Trying to use this protective order as both a sword and a shield. She wants to use it to get the headlines pre-trial that Amber Heard accuses Johnny Depp of sexual assault. But then when it comes to actually, again, put up or shut up time, that part she doesn't want on camera.
Yeah. Well, she does have a Yorkshire Terrier that's about this big. She has
it's like the size of a basset hound.
it's a cube. I have 2 English Bulldog cubes, so I know. My Yorkshire Terrier is about this big. But now, yeah, you said you'd have about 90 minutes. We've passed that. Do you need to run, or do you have a couple more minutes?
I got a couple more, but I am going to have to wrap up and get to the day job pretty quick here.
Yeah. Well, then we'll just kind of to segue out of this here. Then you're also getting involved in the Manson trial.
Yes.
Remember when that meant Charles?
I know.
Remember the Manson trial meant Charles? So you're getting involved in that. How did that start? Did that start with Colonel Kurtz as well? Or
yeah, that's one that actually Kurtz got me interested in. Also about a little bit over a year ago. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in the case. Again, I'm not a Marilyn Manson fan. Didn't follow his music. He's not really the cultural icon I think that Johnny Depp is. And so what got me interested in it initially was when Colonel Kurtz asked me to make a video with her because there were these reports that there had been a search warrant executed on Marilyn Manson's home and that his computers had been seized, his devices had been seized. And what does all of this mean? So that really caught my attention, because when there is a search warrant like this, number one, I know what that looks like. That looks like a child porn investigation.
Oh, yeah.
There's just a limited, very limited universe of crimes that you could be investigating, based on digital data like that you would need to seize those devices and do
tax fraud or child porn. That's it.
Yeah. And so the fact that that had been done, it was kind of a clue as to what was going on. The fact that they had a search warrant, means they had probable cause. They had information that they were proceeding on. But then the fact that to this day, nothing has come of that, that's really significant because I have been involved in a number of these investigations. I've handled these types of cases. I've seen how they go. It does not take long, even for the small little communities that I work in, to turn around the forensics on a search warrant like this. And if there is anything at all, the smallest hint of something illegal that can be linked to those computers, it's game over. I mean, there's going to be charges filed. There's going to be a prosecution. So the fact that did not happen was pretty, from my standpoint, clear indication that there's nothing there. So then once we saw Marilyn Manson's lawsuit and the allegations that he was making, in particular, this claim that Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore had tried to hack his computers, had created these fake accounts to try to plant illicit pornography on his computers. To my eye, this process with the search warrant really tends to corroborate what Marilyn Manson is accusing them of, because had they been able to link those devices to that type of illicit content, those email accounts, I don't think we would be seeing the non-action, that we have seen in that case. So yeah, it got interesting to me once I saw, again, there's another side of the story here. The accusations have dominated the headlines for a couple of years. And then Marilyn Manson drops this complaint that is, I mean, it's hot. This is my reaction on Colonel Kurtz is like, these lawyers are not fucking around. Okay. And this is not some schmo lawyer that Marilyn Manson has either. He's got Howard King. Howard King is a freaking powerhouse. He's represented, all kinds of high profile musicians in some big controversial cases. So it's just going to be an interesting one, I think, to see how it unfolds. In many ways, it means a little bit more to me than the Johnny Depp case does, because it's much more like what I deal with in my line of work. I don't get Johnny Depp as a client, the guy that everybody loves, that everybody is already looking for a reason to, believe that he's telling the truth and that he's, not what he is being depicted as in all these negative accounts. Marilyn Manson is a lot more like the client I get, where you're already kind of despised, you're looked down on, you're disliked, people are assuming the worst about you. And so, that matters to me. That's something that I have to fight over, every day in my job, is trying to get unlikable people a fair shake, get them their due process, get people to look at the evidence and not just judge people on what they think the character is.
Well, I didn't really start caring about the Manson Wood thing until he filed the complaint. And I thought, that's kind of when it started to happen. I'm a huge Westworld fan. I love Westworld. The old movie. I mean, Yul Brynner was my favorite actor when I was a kid. The old original is a beautiful movie. I was just so stoked about the series. And then I said, someone's accusing Marilyn Manson of this, which again, he's either going to be like the total nerdy beta kid, or you're going to know you're going to get into some freaky shit if you're going to sleep with Marilyn Manson. One of those two. And then I thought, who's this Evan Rachel Wood person? I went, she's the actress from Westworld. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a huge Marilyn Manson fan. I enjoy the music when it comes up in a random play of my playlists on YouTube and whatnot. And I like her as an actress. So let's just read the complaint and see what it's about. I wanted to go into this totally straight and 50-50 down the middle and say, let's just see what the evidence says. And by the end of the 23-page complaint, I'm like, I don't think I can be neutral on this. Because like you were saying, I mean, a powerhouse lawyer, and B, the way that complaint was worded.
Well, and not just worded, but substantiated. I mean, the fact
that's what I mean.
These things, he's got actual evidence like embedded in and appended to his complaint. And quite frankly, more evidence in this one legal filing than we have seen from Evan Rachel Wood and these other accusers in years and years and years of making these accusations.
And the fact that the statements in there were so emphatic and so direct. And I mean, ordinarily when we're writing the complaints or the answers, you try to be as vague as possible in case your client doesn't turn out to be the superstar you think he is.
Sure.
Every one of those, every statement in there, she did this, they did that. It went, he's got shit to back up every single sentence in there, the way that's worded. Because if not, if even one thing in there, he can be sanctioned for that as a lawyer, for swearing that that's what happened.
Yeah.
There's no way agrees.
that was one of the big telling things that the legal community saw right off the bat is, again, what is not there, and what is not there in the complaint by and large, upon information and belief. And these are the
Exactly.
magic words that you use in a legal filing when you are basically saying, I don't have the goods to be able to substantiate this right now, but I believe once we get into the investigative process that I'm going to be able to substantiate that. That language is markedly lacking from
Hmm.
the overwhelming majority of these claims that he's made. And so, yeah, the implication there is that he can back those up. He doesn't even need to go through investigation to be able to substantiate that.
And I can't remember if I was talking to Nick or Legal Mindset Andrew about this. Is if 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 he can't prove everything in here,
Hmm.
he's going to be happy if he gets his license suspended.
Hmm.
Just be the way this thing is worded, he has to be able to prove every single sentence in that thing,
Hmm.
and you don't say that unless you can.
Hmm.
So and the other thing that struck me is just really quickly, because I know you got to your view on this. The way it was worded to me, by the time I finished it, I was thinking it was worded so that it provides Evan Rachel Wood with an out by
Hmm.
saying, I never had any plan of doing this until I met this grifter chick. And now, if you drop your suit against me, I'm going to bury her. I will be your star witness if you let me out of this. It
Hmm.
seemed to be worded in such a way to entice her to turn on Elliot.
Hmm.
What do you think? Am I crazy?
No, I think that I think that's a reasonable interpretation. I mean, there's always going to be a prisoner's dilemma problem when you have, multiple people involved in what they are alleging in the complaint is criminal activity. I mean, fraudulently creating this FBI letter and filing it in court and trying to put child porn on somebody's computer. I mean, these are these are serious criminal offenses. And so there's a natural incentive there. Again, that I deal with all the time as a criminal lawyer. Who's gonna turn first? You'll get a better deal if you're the one who fesses up and throws your counterpart under the bus. And so that was, I think, a natural strategy for them to pursue, is really the divide and conquer strategy between Evan and Ilma. And quite frankly, I think we're already seeing signs of that
Mm-hmm.
happening with these anti-slap motions. We're seeing
Yep.
very different strategic approaches to the anti-slap, most notably with Evan Rachel Wood is really trying to hammer on this fake FBI letter and arguing that shouldn't be a valid basis for him to be, asserting civil claims against her. And she has gone under oath, with her account of believing that this is authentic. Interestingly, in my view, without describing the circumstances that would allow us to evaluate the sincerity of her belief, how
Mm-hmm.
did you meet this FBI officer?
Yeah.
What did you talk about? How did this come about? How did this letter come about? Did you request this letter? Whose idea was the letter? What format did you receive the letter in? Was it mailed to you? Was it emailed to you? I mean, just all of these sort of circumstantial questions that would enable us to look at those facts and say, okay, yeah, that seems credible that you would think that's authentic, or no, we have text messages of you composing this letter that tends to undermine, your
Mm-hmm.
your account of it.
Yeah, when you have a screenshot of a text message saying, "How does this sound for the letter from the FBI agent?" Oh, I
Yeah.
think you need to bring out. I think you need to take out this part. Otherwise, it's really good. Uh,
Yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge to overcome. So the fact that Evan Rachel Wood is really going in hard on that FBI letter, and Ilma Gore is not. She is not
mhm.
challenging the FBI letter at all. She is not going under oath herself at this point in time. Quite frankly, from my perspective, Ilma Gore is taking the far more prudent and wise approach here of not putting all of your eggs in the basket. Evan Rachel Wood is now positioned that if this stuff does go forward, And the thing we have to bear in mind is that the case is going to go forward regardless of what happens with these anti-SLAPP motions, because they are not complete challenges to the case. They are limited challenges to certain allegations and certain causes of action, but a substantial number are going to survive and go forward regardless. So she's really in a high risk situation right now with the strategy that she has adopted. Ilma Gore has a lot more options available to her. You know, the saying, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Ilma Gore is not digging currently, and that to me is very, very prudent.
Well, my last question for you is your approach to the Manson case different than your approach to the Depp v. Heard case? And if so, how?
I would say no. It's just that we're in a different time process with the Manson case than, we are right now with the Depp case. By the time I came on YouTube with the Depp case, I had already watched the entire UK trial. I had been following the litigation in Virginia. I was pretty familiar, like I said, with what the evidence was going to be and what was going to come out. We're still at a very preliminary stage in the Marilyn Manson case. I certainly, like you, look at this complaint and think, wow, this doesn't look good for Evan Rachel Wood. There's a lot of things here that are going to need to be explained. And if even a small amount of this can be substantiated, that's going to be pretty problematic. But everybody is entitled to their due process. Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore are entitled to their due process. They get to present their case. We haven't seen this fleshed out nearly to the extent that we have seen with Johnny Depp's case. So,
well, we're still 2 years out at least.
Yeah. Oh, at least. And so, trolls aside, I'm here to offer my perspective as a legal professional on what I see. And so based on what is out there at this point in time, I'm going to tell you what I think about what this means strategically, what this means in terms of just like we've been saying, the abilities to substantiate and bring evidence to support it and stuff. But, no, we're a long way from trial. I don't have an opinion about who these people are or what the evidence is. I'm still pretty open to seeing what do they have to bring. It's put up or shut up time. They're entitled to put up their case. I'm very interested to see what it is. But at this point in time, from what we've seen, it sure looks to me like the weight of the evidence is leaning in Marilyn Manson's favor.
In a big way. I can't imagine what they've got that would counter even what was in the complaint.
Well, she did file the Phoenix Rising documentary as a thumb drive exhibit in the anti-SLAPP. So, Marilyn Manson's got text messages. She has a documentary.
A documentary of her colluding with a bunch of people to commit conspiracy to at least that's how I see it. But now this is kind of like the sports jumbotron marriage proposal thing here. The request I have for you is I have been trying to get Colonel Kurtz to come and do a Marilyn Manson introduction with me. Twitter DMs have gone unanswered, multitude and emails have gone unanswered. I'm asking you to kind of give a little bump as a, hey, he's trying to get a hold of you.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can nudge you forward.
that would be, because I kind of gave up about 2 months ago after a multitude of Twitter DMs and a couple of emails going, I'd really love to have you on. But who was I back then? Who am I now? But I'm slightly more than I was 2 months ago. But if you could help me get in touch with her, that would be awesome. I would deeply appreciate it. And then we could have like a big group thing. Get this going to get sort of some of the background going, because I don't want to go in too hot and heavy for the beginning, because then you're going to burn out, I think, before the end of the 2 years, unless that is your thing, and that is her thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, she is the Marilyn Manson
Yes.
YouTube internet expert.
She's the authority. I mean, she's done interviews with so many people that, we're now seeing them as witnesses in the case,
Mhm.
submitting declarations, people who have the behind the scenes knowledge. So yeah, she even had the LA Sheriff's Department contact her because, her sources and her information was so good.
Yeah,
Um,
and I would love to interview her, basically in the kind of same way here. One of my mods here is that, Andrew, we appreciate you so much what you've done and do for coming on here to share your knowledge, and I can't I can't say more than that myself. I'm glad you gave me almost 2 hours of your early morning time.
well, thank you so
Uh,
much. I appreciate it.
and in any time you feel like you want to jump in and join a conversation, you are always welcome. It's an open invite. Um, you may want to come on. Friday is just once a month. I do a Friday just drunken grift stream. People pay me to drink, and this time we're doing sovereign citizens, your
Oh
favorite
boy.
clients. We're doing sovereign citizen videos and court fails.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
steer clear of that one, aren't you?
Everyone's favorite.
I'm still looking for the link between that and maritime law. I'm still trying to find out what the link is there. But if you
Yeah,
ever
they
find that
do
out, let me know.
they do try. They certainly do try.
Thanks for stopping by. I know you need to get to work. I really really appreciate it. And everybody here, we've got 1,300 people now. Which we were up to about 1,460 or something. I think was the top that I saw. But hit that like button on your way out, and make sure also when you bail on here, go over to Andrea Burkhart's page and A Burkhart Law, and hit her subscribe button and follow what she's doing, because she is the one that's responsible for bringing all of these unsealed documents to LawTube, to YouTube, to Twitter, to literally everyone. I don't think anyone else has done this. I think it's you. Maybe the huge NBC, CBS, and whatnot have done their own thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were tapping into you as well. This is you, and thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for being here, and I guess we will see you next time somewhere down the road.
Thank you so much. I'll look forward to it.
And have a great day. Anything you want to
Thanks.
say on your way out to your peeps, or anything else? Something
Just
coming up?
I've been really overwhelmed by all the support. Like I said earlier in the show, it's really been an honor to see this community of folks with the same interest in the truth, and just seeing behind the spin, behind the narratives that are being pitched, and the ability to be able to judge these things for ourselves. It's heartening to me to see that value being so prominent in my supporters. So thank you, all of you. Thank you to everyone who supported, donated to the Unsealing, helped us get that accomplished, so that we all have the tools to look beyond those narratives and see the truth for ourselves.
Well, you provided the tools, and thanks for that.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you next time. Thanks, Andrew. Deeply appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye. Well, there we have it. The one, the only, the legend, Andrea Burkhart, who, as we've talked about tonight, is the person who brought us the unsealed documents. As I talked about, I thought she was just crowdfunding the funds, and if she raised the money, then she would get the documents. But now she's even more awesome when I found out that she had already put this in motion and was going to do it out of her back pocket, whether she got the funds or not. That is an incredible amount of integrity. So I've done a couple of streams with her on Nick, and on Ricada Law, and I believe we were on Legal Bites together once. I'm not quite sure. It was all a blur in the early days of my YouTube career, but absolutely impressed with her. She's got some fantastic videos. Her Isaac Baruch things are great. She's broken down round by round in a boxing match style video, which is fantastic. It's always good to have some insight from other people, and it was an honor that she was on here. Oh, that that is really all we have here tonight. We did that for a couple of hours. I can hang. I'll hang out here for a few more minutes. If any of you, oh, I mean, like I'm giving you permission to leave. If any of you feel like you want to leave, you can do so. You're gonna leave whether I want you to or not. Hmm. How interesting. Wait. 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 Well, that was interesting. Huh. Geez, I guess my mic power cord was a little loose there. I just adjusted my microphone a little bit and it decided it was going to unplug itself. Sorry about that. Don't touch your microphone. That's that's the first law of broadcasting. Don't touch your microphone. And I touched my microphone. I touched my microphone in public. Sorry. All right. Well, now that now that we've got that out of the way, as I was saying, on your way out, I would deeply appreciate it. We've got 817 likes. I think that's the I think that might be the most live stream likes I've ever had. I think we also had the highest number of alone and by myself viewers. I know I've had more viewers when Nick dumped a stream to me, or Andrew from Legal Mindset dumped a stream on me, but that sounds really bad, doesn't it? Dumped a stream on me. Rated me to, you know what I mean. But I think grassroots, this is the most people. Like we had 400 and I said 67, 76 or something at one point. Hit that listen like button. Let's see if we can get me up to 1,000. 1,000 likes while I'm on live would be just a ridiculous accomplishment for me. And it would be difficult to probably to replicate that for a very long time. We just need 170 more. And there's 1,000 of you here. If 170 of you in the 1,044 viewers we have haven't hit the like button, please go down there and do it. And I would deeply appreciate it. And I would be honored if you would subscribe to the channel. These are the things we do here. If you're not familiar with the channel, we do the legal stuff. We interview people. We talk with people. We bring in guests. That's going to be a bigger part of what we do. I do mainly maritime law stuff. So on Mondays, we have Maritime Law Monday, where we talk about ship accidents, disasters, collisions. We watch YouTube videos and react to big ships doing really dumb things. And we're going to be doing lots of paranormal stuff with Farron Balanced. If you haven't seen her channel, go over there and pay her a visit too. Farron, Faran Balanced, doing conspiracy theories, hauntings, Bigfoot type stuff. That's going to be a big part of what we do. We're just having fun here. And in the near future, what do we have? Tomorrow night, we will probably wrap up Johnny Depp's motion in limine. That's what I'm going to try to do tomorrow night to burn through that. Thursday night, I'm pretty much convinced I'm not going to have a stream on Thursday night, my time, which is Thursday afternoon, London time, and Thursday morning, US time. Yeah, I don't believe that I will be doing a stream that night because I have an endoscopy and a colonoscopy coming up on Friday morning, my time. And I'm going to be taking all of the medicine to purge my system. And I don't think I want to be on air when I'm doing that. So Thursday night is probably going to be a sit out night. Friday night is my second Fuck It Friday, we're calling it, where it's just a grift stream. Be doing drinks for doing shots for $100, either through a $100 chat or through an aggregation of, like, say, two $50s or five $20. Anyway, we'll just have fun. It's just basically paying me to watch me drink. It's a silly thing we do once a month. No big deal. But we're going to be watching a lot of videos when we do that. Last time I tried to read news articles, but I found that my ability to read when I'm 8 or 9 shots into the night is really, really low quality. So we're going to be watching lots of sovereign citizens, police tasings, people behaving poorly in court, things like that. We'll have fun doing a lot of video reactions. So that's what we'll do on Friday. And then Monday we'll be back to another shipping accident. And then we'll continue with Johnny Depp Amber Heard documents as long as it takes to go through what I want to go through of those documents. That's the future time. That's the future timetable. That's the things we're going to be going through. And we're at 861. We just need another 140 likes while we're here live for probably the next 10 minutes to get me up to the 1,000. So from the 991 of you, even if all of you stuck with me from the beginning, that's still 130 of you that haven't hit that like button. Even if you take it back later, do me the favor and reach down there and hit the like button. Come on, do me a favor. And we've got a lot of new subscribers. Thank you guys so much. We've had some good super chats, and we still have to catch up on a super chats here. Well, we've got Xcomer Z. Now you still have to tell me, is this Z or ZZZ or ZZZ? It's up to you to tell me how you want that Z pronounced. Thank you so much for the super sticker. That's great. I always appreciate them. And Marloka, you have also given a super sticker, which I am also very, very grateful for. Thank you so much for doing that. Deeply, deeply appreciated. All right. Let's see. Going back through the chat. Now we're kind of at relaxation time here. I have no son, says, for a pleasant time, make it Suntory time. And I think it was Lucky. Someone was asking me why I haven't been drinking on this stream. That you just haven't been paying attention. I've been drinking my wine this evening. See, there's still even some wine residue in my official Johnny Depp Megapint Legal Vices Pimp Cup. And what we're enjoying tonight is Robert Mondavi Private Selection Bourbon Barrel Aged Cabernet Sauvignon. Because I have the colonoscopy coming up in two nights and 3 mornings. I'm staying away from the whiskey, and I'm just kind of keeping it light with some grape juice. Yeah, ye oldie colon blow. That's that's how I'm going to start my Friday. Great. Morning at Uncivil Law. Do we? Hey, Kurt, what's up? How are you doing this morning? You've just missed Andrea. We're just kind of chilling here. What's up if you? Let me shoot you an invite if you're feeling particularly invitable. Just to say howdy to you here. I will shoot that over to you. Where are you? Do. It helps if I spell correctly. Do. Yeah, I just shot you an invite. If you're feeling particularly invitable, go check your Twitter. D, what Legal Vice says, what are your thoughts on Judge Judy, if any? A super chat before I mentioned her, and I'm just curious because it sounded as if you had something to say. Well, what I was saying wasn't about her. I mean, she was a tough judge back in her day, and she's even a tough judge on on Judge Judy. I mean, she does her thing. She's got to be a little extra for the cameras and whatnot to keep the ratings. But what I was saying was the way people act in her courtroom. they're talking over each other. They're interrupting the judge. They're interrupting each other. They're, making threats. They're being all hood, looking for street cred. And, the same thing happens on, Joe Brown's courtroom, things like that. I think that's just led to a breakdown in courtroom demeanor. I think if you've watched some of the court cams, people yelling at the judge, interrupting the judge, telling the judge they don't have time for this. I think that's kind of a direct result of this sort of reality law TV. And speaking of real and law and YouTube, we've got Kurt. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing this fine morning in your neck of the woods?
I am in reasonably positive spirits. How are you?
Pretty darn good. When do you get the Texas bar results?
Sometime in mid-October or late October, or never. Who knows? So.
But I see you felt you did a good job. So,
well, I felt I did okay on the MBE and the MPT, the essays. Though the universal consensus appears to be it's hot garbo.
And is it true you had 2 rule against perpetuity questions?
That has been what has been reported. Yes, it is. Yikes. On the essays. It's
And for those of you that don't know what rule against perpetuity is, don't worry. No one else in the legal community does either.
No one else understands what it is either. It's like it's just a good way to cause a lawyer to have a panic in a hurry. Ask who owns Blackacre and who owns it in 21 years, and you're there. You're good to go.
Cheryl Magdalena, great stream. Thanks so much for having Andrea on. Love her channel as well. And Andrea is sharp. She's sharp.
I'm disappointed I miss Andrea. That was the real benefit to my day, and now my day is worse.
Yeah. By seconds. You can go back and watch it. She said 90 minutes, but she gave me 2 hours of her life. So I feel grateful for that. Just talked about why she did what she did, and
the public has a right to know. The trial should be in the open. Public policy.
My big thing that I took away from that was when I asked her if she would have gone ahead and got the copies if she hadn't met the crowdfunding goal. And that's when she had already gone through the process of getting the copies, and she was just using the crowdfunding to try to recoup as much as possible. So that surprised me. That was my big surprise takeaway, that she was doing this anyway, whether she recouped the costs or not. That's kind of how she felt about it. I thought that was a pretty big deal.
Cool.
And I'm just grateful that they're there. So I get to talk about stuff for a little while longer.
Yeah, depending on your interest, you've got material forever. You get 6,600 pages of it. Enjoy.
It's Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in again. Yeah, it's a good grift. It keeps it going for a while. Thankfully, there's a lot of redundancies in there. The same large documents copied over and over again. Well, what's going on in uncivil law YouTube world these days that we need to know about?
Well, lots of good stuff is going on. We're producing lots of content. We have more content than we know what to do with at the moment, which is a nice problem to have. I just announced a standardized release schedule, at least phase 1 of a standardized release schedule. So 10:45 a.m. my time, Central Time. That's 11:45 Eastern Time. I'm going to release an edited story every day. Fridays at 3 or 4 on Eastern Time, 4 Eastern Time, I'm going to do a live stream, because that seems to be when the majority of the people who at least follow my channel seem to be around based on the analytics. So I figure, steer into that, see what we can get. It's amazing how much my watch time comes from live streams, though. It was something like 90% plus, or it's something in that ballpark. It might be high 80s, but almost all my view time, all my watch time comes from the live streams. And so it's like, well, the people are doing live stream only, like Emily D. Baker. Maybe she's on the right path. Maybe the idea of edited content is a fool's errand. So maybe stop doing that. We'll see. But I'm not going to make that change right now.
Yeah, I mean, not that I have any any great wisdom to offer from my amazing 10 weeks in the game, but I just use the edited stuff for when I'm not going to be able to do a live stream, because you get 100 people here watching for 20 minutes, you got several dozen hours out of that. You get 1,000 people watching for 60 minutes, you got 1,000 hours.
So yeah, the other the thing that hesitates me to establishing something more definitive in terms of live streams is let's suppose as a given that we establish that a 3 p.m. live stream every day would be a benefit to the channel. So it's like, okay, so therefore you should do it. It's like, well, what's the problem? Well, I actually have to do a 3 p.m. live stream every single day, and I'm on a schedule. And there's that, which maybe I should be. Maybe that's unavoidable because YouTube likes the schedules and likes the things. It's just like, do I really want to commit to that? Do I really want to commit to 3 o'clock every day being at my computer, which necessarily deprives me from doing something else?
Well, I mean, and that's why you and me are in greatly different positions where this is in addition to what I do, where this is what you do. So I can afford to go, today is 9 o'clock, tomorrow is 11 o'clock, and the next day I ain't doing it.
Right.
Where this is what you do now.
It is now.
You've
Thank
taken
God.
the leap. You've taken the leap. Oh, wow. And
I'm a lot happier for it. I'll tell you what, because I've been doing this full time now for a month. And I was getting to some dark places, my friend, in my own psychology. I'd been doing my previous job for 15 years, and for at least 5 of them, I've been heading in some negative spaces. So I think I got out, fortunately, before any permanent harm resulted, which was not beyond the realm of possibility.
Well, we're glad it didn't happen, and we're glad you're here. And that's you got to do what you got to do to keep it straight upstairs.
Yeah,
and that works. And speaking of that, I got to make one quick shout out to one of my mods, Rose, our Unsealing. It's good to see you again. She's had some really, really shitty stuff happen with the personal life with multiple people in her family at the same time. And I haven't seen her for a while. Great to have you back. It's been a rough month for you, I understand, and we're pleased to have you here live. I'm not sure what that means, short order cook, but thanks. Shoot. Well, I was sad. The dumpster fire. I mean, the dumpster mattress shooter case, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Vaguely.
That Nick has been showing the video. The guys that shot some guy to death while they're fighting over a mattress by a dumpster.
Well, if that's where your life has come to, things have gone wrong.
It was when I'm gonna kill you. I doubt it. I'm going to kill you. Get the baseball bat. Bang, 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 bang. I was supposed to go to trial next week. It's been delayed until 2023. So,
on the plus side, if you lose, you do get a mattress.
Slightly stained. It's a little brain matter, a little osmosis kind of. Well, that's not going to.
Trying to look to the bright side here. It's all good news.
Yeah, bright red. All over, but the Taylorship business cannibal choppy uppy person.
She's a riot.
Yeah,
that was a fun story.
We've got the I guess it's just a status hearing on September 1st, then October 1st, and then allegedly going to trial on the 19th. Got to do something. And I read the Maritime case on my Maritime Monday last week. That was fun.
It's a great case, isn't it?
It is. I deeply appreciate you pointing that case out to me. That people seem to think it was amusing.
It is great.
Which it was.
It is my role model for judging. It's the role model for everything I want to be in life.
And I did exert a great deal of effort to learn something about the background, and it just does not exist.
No.
The background to that case does not exist.
There is no background. I mean, it's a run-of-the-mill case. There's nothing exciting about it. I mean, in terms of the surface level, a guy's working on a boat. He tries to leave the boat. In the process of leaving the boat, he gets injured. What's the ride home about? Not much. It's your run-of-the-mill everyday case, except for the decision.
Which, I mean, as you said when back in the day when you shared it privately with me, and then when you did it for your 100,000 streams, the more you read it, just the sillier it gets.
Yes.
And the judge needs to get some sort of at least a short story award. For I mean, the imagery of writing on the back of a gravy stained napkin with crayons. Why did the napkin have to be gravy stained?
But mustard splotched, because that's where the brick red crown was easier to read than the goldenrod crown, because it stood out better among the mustard splotch of the paper.
Ye gods. Steph, I know you're just out of the hospital, and I hope this isn't the meds doing this, but Thank you. Don't thank me for such a great stream. Thank you for such a great super chat. I hate getting these big super chats because I get really embarrassed and I'm not sure what to say other than thank you, but
you'll get used to it.
I hope so.
But $200 is very generous.
Thanks.
I don't see those very often, but it is very, very appreciated when you see the large super chats. Makes you feel like you've done something worthwhile. You've done something worthwhile. You deserve it all.
That might be the biggest one I've ever got. I saw someone dropped a Joe. Was it $1,000 one? I don't know what I would do if that ever happened to me. But
well, other than $500 cap, it might be $1,000 in some other currency because $500 is the limit.
Oh, is it?
Oh. Yeah.
Well, good. I'd say if all I would probably be doing is going, oh God, what sort of tax liability have I just created? That's what I would be thinking.
Yeah, since this is now my full-time profession, I have to explore at least the filing quarterly thing. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, I think I have to pay some taxes coming up pretty soon. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I need to start memberships. I need to get on the membership grift. I just need someone to design emojis for me.
Yeah, I have that problem too. I don't have really good emojis.
Yeah. Come on, there's 1,000 people of you here watching. Someone can give me 6, 8, or 10 good emojis, and you'll get lots and lots of credit for it, and you'll feel great. Steph, seriously, again, thanks. Farron's here too. Hey, Farron, do you feel like joining the crowd? If you do, we'll shoot you an invite. Why not? I got nothing better to do. I'll send something your way if you want to accept it. Gosh, now see this thing. Jeff escapes Las Vegas floods and smoke shop stabbing. Wow. When I was in Vegas, it was 121 degrees, and then I left, and 2 days later, they had these floods, and I didn't know about the floods because I went camping with my family. So yeah, I missed all the fun. The smoke shop stabbing. What's your take on that, Kurt? Is the guy in trouble?
Oh yeah, no, he's going down hard. He's going down hard, and for what is yet to be not yet defined, because the guy he stabbed isn't dead, but he isn't dead yet. And as long as he dies as a complication of the stabbing, at any time, it could be a year from now, it could be 10 years from now, it could be 20 years from now, and that murder charge is potentially something that's looming in the distance. At the moment, of course, you're looking at some sort of aggravated assault with a weapon. You're looking at, I don't know Nevada law that well, but I imagine you're looking at some significant jail time. The statute of limitations, I believe, in Nevada is either 3 or 4 years. So if I'm the prosecutor right now, I'm sitting on it, because if I don't bring that case. Right. If I don't bring it within the statute of limitations, I lose it. If I do bring it within the statute of limitations, I lose the murder count. So I have to predict the future, basically. But until the statute of limitations runs, I don't have to make a choice. So if it's 3 years, I'm waiting 2 years and 11 months. If in 2 years and 11 months he's dead, then if he's not dead in 2 years and 11 months, then I'll bring the aggravated charge. And but if he is dead, I'll bring the murder case. But the problem is if he dies after the fact, But yeah, anyways, I just really wanted to drop in and say hi. I've got some other things I've got to attend to today. So I, just wanted to wish you well and hope all's well. And don't forget to check out my channel, Uncivil Law, for all your stuff. I will check in with you guys later.
Great. And again, do what he said. Go over there, hit up his site. Kurt's great. He's got a great legal mind. He's doing great things, and hopefully be doing great things in Texas as well as Virginia, right?
Yeah, Virginia, I'm licensed, and we'll see how the other licensing goes. All right, got around. Talk to you later.
Hey, thanks a lot. Have a good morning, Kurt.
Bye.
Good to see you. Bye-bye. All righty, folks. Yeah, it was good to see Kurt. Haven't seen Kurt for a while. And I sent an invite to Farron. Hopefully Farron will be popping in. Oh, let's see here. Whoop. Never mind. She's just I'd love to. I'm watching as I'm waiting for my hair appointment. So next time, Farron Hair and Balanced is doing her thing. So that's it. We've had a good run here today at 2 hours and 22 minutes and 22 seconds as of right now. That's well, we've almost got our 1,000 likes. This would be the first time I've ever got 1,000 likes on during the course of a live stream. We just need 38 more. So of the 982 of you, 38 of you just go down and hit that like button just to make me happy before we call this quits in about 10 minutes. And anyone that hasn't hit that subscribe button, if you do that, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. Well, we've got about 10 minutes. What are we gonna talk to? I'll open up the floor to anybody that wants to say anything. Like I said, now we don't have any guests. We don't have anything serious, important to talk about. So we'll just open it up to free comments. So, yeah, all right. I'm just kind of scrolling back through the comments here. M&M Legal Vice, you missed fair and balanced super chat. That is a very real possibility. That's why I said I'm scrolling back up to make sure, because I know I missed a couple. There we go. Yep, and they were right next to each other, and hers was one of the two that I saw that scrolled on by. Steph kind of freaked me out there. Soy Mafia said, "Yeah, okay, we did that one. We did that, and Farron's was right next after that." So boom, hey, Legal Vices, non-civil law. Wanted to get 2 legal opinions. Thoughts of the Trump raid. I'm genuinely interested and don't know what to think. I'll talk to you about that privately. That's not something I'm even getting anywhere near. I'm not saying the T word anywhere on my stream, just like I'm not saying the AJ hearing that just wrapped up the other day. Those are both he who must not be named in the YouTube world right now. But yeah, politically motivated. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's pretty much as much as I'm willing to say. I'm too young to put my channel in jeopardy now. Starshine, thank you so much for the blank comment. It is deeply, deeply appreciated. Deeply, deeply grateful to you. AJ, rhymes with Schmalik's bones. Yeah. So my opinion, nope, it is in relation to the question that was asked a while ago. Yeah, politically motivated. That's kind of what I'm saying. Now, one fun thing, which I don't know whether I want to do this tomorrow or hang on real quick here. Super sticker from Tracy Crawford. Thank you so much for that. It is deeply, deeply appreciated. We have 994 likes. We're coming down to we have 5 minutes. Just 6 more likes, and I can shut the hell up about likes. Do me the solid. I just want to see that 1,000 likes for the first time in my YouTube career. That would be really super awesome. Just like the super sticker. Thanks. I was going to say something. Oh, yes. I don't know if I will do this tomorrow. I will probably save it for next week because I want to build up some hype around this. We're coming up on the 37th anniversary of a very, very important legal event. As you know, we talk about music a lot here. After we do our streams, after the main point of our stream is done, we get off into music quite a bit here. But on September 20th of 37 years ago, 1995, I believe it was. Was it? I'm pretty sure it was 1995. There was some very, very important hearings being held on Capitol Hill. They were called the I'm trying to remember what the abbreviation was PMRC. I can't remember what PMRC stands for off the top of my head. They've just always been the PMRC hearing, the Parents Music Resource Center. Basically, the Senate was holding hearings on music censorship. And that's what I want to go over. I want to go over 3 witness testimonies, 3 people that gave testimony before Congress. and review those 3 videos. And it was all, yeah, that was the big deal. Fair and Balanced says, the Senate hearings, Tipper Gore, Frank Zappa hearing, rock porn hearing. But those were the 3 witness testimonies that I want to go through. They called them, and every single one of these 3 witnesses, for different reasons, basically kind of blew the doors off the Senate. And by Senate, I mean Al Gore and his wife. Their attempts to censor music and get warning labels put on them. The 3 witnesses that we'll review are Frank Zappa, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, and John Denver. All 3 of those people surprised the committee with their answers. As Fair and Balanced says, then Senator Al Gore's wife, Tipper, was upset that a Prince album she brought for her daughter had risque lyrics. Yeah, they actually created a list of bad songs, and Prince was at the top of the list. His the song "Darling Nikki," and I remember what Sheena Easton, the song "Sugar Walls" was on there, because Sugar Walls, that wasn't talking about no gingerbread house, that's for sure. What else was there? Well, Twisted Sister, We're Not Going to Take It. What else was there? There was a couple of other songs. There was an AC/DC song that was there. They mentioned Motley Crue a few times. Judas Priest, "Eat Me Alive" was there. But yeah, so they called as witnesses Frank Zappa and Dee Snider, and fully expected them to be dumb fucking idiots. But Frank Zappa is one of the most intelligent people you would ever have met in your entire life. And they did not know that, and they were not ready for that. And Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, they were dazzled, and he shut them down with his ability to make a very reasoned argument. And then they expected John Denver to give a particular opinion on the matter, and he gave the opposite opinion, and that freaked them out. So I want to go over those 3 testimonies. I could do it tomorrow, but I'll probably do it next Tuesday. So get ready for that. Alice Cooper's "Dead Babies" is a great song, by the way. Little baby ate a bottle of aspirin. What a great way to start a song. We have the 1,000 likes. Now I can shut up about likes for the rest of the evening, and we can shut it down. Steph, thank you so much for congratulations on your 1,000 likes. You rock. You rule. That is deeply appreciated. Everybody that made that possible, you have my deepest, dearest, most sincere thanks. We had probably the most concurrent viewers, the grassroots concurrent viewers of any program. We have way more than the most ever chat likes in a video. We picked up a bunch of subscribers. Thanks all of you, and we are at exactly the 2-hour 31-minute mark, which I think is a beautiful and fantastic place to end this. As I Have No Son says, shut it down before people take it back, and that's what I'm gonna do. They were also trying to bring in that Dungeons and Dragons brought out Satanism among teens. Oh hell yeah, I was big into D&D when I was a kid, and that was always the thing that the church leaders' neighbors were always giving. They're playing that devil game down in the basement. Yep. So, all righty then, everybody here, thank you so much for everything you did here. Thank you for tuning in to Andrea Burkhart. Please go check out Andrea Burkhart's YouTube channel. Just type in a Burkhart Law or Andrea Burkhart. It'll come up. Subscribe to her, follow her. She does some great stuff, great videos. We got Fair and Balanced here in the chat. Go to Fair and Balanced. She has a locals too that you can link to. I'm sure the one of my mods will throw up her locals address. Go subscribe to her YouTube. Tomorrow is the day she gets to reapply for monetization to her YouTube channel, and good luck with that, Farron. We hope you can get that up and running again. And thanks to Uncivil Law Kurt, who popped in to say good morning. It was always good to see him. I haven't talked to Kurt in quite a while. And D What is going to finish us off the night with a super sticker. D What in the house. Thank you so much. All right, folks, it's been great. We will enjoy our stuff together again tomorrow. Again, probably doing some Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp motion in limine. We're going to wrap that up. That's what we're going to do. Command decision. Tomorrow, we're going to wrap up the Johnny Depp motion in limine. Thursday, night off, so I can go have massive explosive diarrhea while I clear out and purge my system for the colonoscopy Friday morning. Friday evening, I'm going to eat me like an entire pizza because there's no way I'm going to do a drunk stream with literally the cleanest and emptiest my stomach has ever been. So we'll fill it full of food. We'll do the drunk stream, the grift stream. You pay me to drink, and we just have a shit ton of fun. Monday, Maritime Law Day. Tuesday, we will do the Senate music censorship hearing video, and that'll take us up through the next week. Great to see you all here. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We will see you tomorrow. I am Legal Vices, and until we get together again, whatever you do, make sure that you enjoy your legal vices. Good night. I'm out. Bye.